Hi there, everyone. Welcome back to Mastering the Young Band. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Remington study, Long Tone 1A in the Foundations book, as well as a pretty cool exercise you can use with your beginners to help them get really good at their musical alphabet. Let's start first with the Foundations, the Long Tone 1A. It's one of the most popular warm-ups in this book. And the warm-up, for those of you that don't know, originated from Emory Remington. He was a trombone pedagogue, musician, and he created these exercises for trombones to go to their different positions, first, second, third, fourth, etc. And it's been since adapted for full band because it's such a good study because students descend in their range, just like the trombone would, and there's all kinds of techniques you can work on. So this Remington study 1A in the Foundations book, for those of you that aren't familiar with the book, it's played in half notes. And so what I typically do when I introduce this study with my second year players is I don't play it as written. I set the metronome at tempo 72. The first thing we do is we usually note name it. F, E, and you notice we didn't go back to the third note. The first time I play this study, we play the concert F for 2 counts, then we hold the second note for 4 counts, and then rest for 2 counts in between. The first priority for me is to get that second note the same volume as the concert F, and then second is obviously to try to get it as close to in tune as you can. I use the clip-on tuners and microphones. What I tell my students is let's get that second note right on 0. So that's how we introduce it. We say the note names. We'll say measure 1 and 2. F, E, play it 2, and da, da. And sometimes I'll tell it to repeat it. We might repeat it 4 times before we go to the next one. And I'm always reminding the kids, same volume is our first priority. Can you make the notes the same volume? And then as they start making it the same volume, getting that second note to be right in tune on 0. I do have them go with equal temperament when we do this exercise to begin with. I don't have them do just intonation on this Remington study. So that's the first thing. And we do that for quite a few weeks where we just go half note, whole note, matching volume, trying to get both sounds on 0. Once I start hearing that second note is starting to seat itself and it's starting to get better in tune and the same volume as that first concert F, then I'll add the next note. So in here, they'll go F, E, F. Again, I still hold the second note for 4 beats, but then we add in the third note. By the way, when I do go to that, I increase the tempo to 92. That way your tubas and low brass have a better chance of making it in one breath and not lose their air. So at a tempo 92, they'll go da, 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 da. Sorry, I sang that pitch wrong. But that's what we do. The next step is we add that third note in. And same thing, we try to get all 3 notes the same volume. The first time you add that third note in, the kids are going to gloss over it. They're going to play it da, da, da. They'll just kind of make it an afterthought. So you have to really emphasize that each note has to be the same volume, especially that third note. Then we do that for a few weeks, and then eventually I will play it in the half notes, and I usually decrease the tempo down to about 60 when we play it actually as written. Some different variations you can do on this besides what I just gave you is to have the students say the intervals. Minor, second, all. You can have them say the intervals as they're playing through this. That's a great way of starting to get that ear training and intervallic relationships. I also, with 1A, I add articulations in as well. So we'll play it first time as a long tone study. Then we might play it lifted. Da, 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 da. Maybe staccato, accented, so we can start adding some articulations. Because as you know, second and third year players, the minute you add an articulation in, all of a sudden they're not the same volume, they lose their intonation, all of that. So you want to add that into their long tone studies. That way they can immediately apply an additional skill and it kind of increases their level of thinking. So that's some strategies on how I use that Remington study, the long tone 1A. It's just such a great warm up for band. If you don't do that every day with your band, I really recommend you do, especially with your second and third year players. It's just really good. For your beginners this week, if you are not familiar with Master of the Alphabet, this is a wonderful, wonderful way of teaching your kids about the musical alphabet. Some people even use the transition to scales as well. I mainly just use it for the alphabet part. This was created by, I believe her name was Deb Haberay, and she was from Forestwood Middle School. And she created this. If you just Google Master of the Alphabet, Haberay, that's Haburay, you can find this Master of the Alphabet. And she did all kinds of fun games and stuff with this that you can check out. But how we primarily use it with my school is getting the kids used to saying the alphabet forwards, but then also backwards. And why that's so important is on their staff, you want the kids to be able to go line, space, down to their ledger lines and understand how to say their alphabet backwards. Kids are great at going A, B, C, D, but the minute they go backwards, a lot of kids can't do it. So we practice this a lot. So the typical way you do this is you go tempo 70 or tempo 60, thank you. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, G, F, E, D, C, B, A. So you go forward and backwards. That way they get their practice of saying both. B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, A, G, F, E, D, C, B. When I first introduce this, what I usually do is I go and I say, you say. So I'll go, for instance, backwards. I'll say A, G, A, G, A, G, F, A, G, F. And I kind of build it up that way. I sequence it. That way the kids eventually get longer and longer on saying it backwards to help them get better. I spend a ton of time on the first line, and it's amazing. Once they get to that second or third line, it starts getting quite a bit easier for them. The most important lines to say backwards, by the way, for your bass clef kids are being able to say their F line backwards, F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F. That way when they go their staff, they start on the fourth line and they can go F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F, and keep going backwards in their alphabet. Most important line for your G clef instruments is the G line. They have to be able to say that backwards so they can go from their second line and go backwards. So if you haven't used Master of the Alphabet yet, this is a great way to start the year in addition to rhythm counting to get your students learning some of their music theory. And just a quick note, you probably caught on just from what I said with the staff. I do not teach my kids acronyms, every good boy does fine, or all cows eat grass. It teaches the kids their lines and spaces quickly, but it doesn't understand or teach them conceptually how the staff actually works. And the issue is the minute they get to a ledger line, they don't have a tool to be able to figure out those ledger line notes above or below. If you can teach them to be patient and to go line space to figure out their notes, they're going to have a better understanding of how to figure out any note on the staff. So if you teach acronyms, I'd recommend not doing that. I recommend using the fourth line on the bass clef, since it's the F clef, and the G line, and having your kids practice building their note names from there. Hope you find this stuff useful. Check out that Master of the Alphabet. It's really, really good. And hopefully that some of those 1A strategies help you as well. Take care.